Mr. President, you were with 7 American heroes earlier today, these World War II veterans, all in their 90s. Did you consider wearing a mask when you were with them, given they're in that?
No, because I was very far away. I appreciate the question. I was very far away from them, as you know. I would have loved to have gone up and hugged them because they're great. I had a conversation with everyone, but we were very far away. You saw. Plus, the wind was blowing so hard in such a direction that if the plague ever reached them, I'd be very surprised. It could have reached me, too. You didn't worry about me. You only worried about them, and that's okay, because I think they're so pure it will never happen, all right? They've lived a great life. But, no, the wind was howling, and I didn't see anybody with masks. I don't know, maybe there were, but they were great. I had conversations with them, but I was standing, as you noticed, would you say I was quite far away?
Kelly, the president, of course, we saw go down to the World War II memorial with a group of 7 American heroes, all in their 90s. Did he give any consideration to wearing a mask, given that his valet just tested positive and he's with some of those in the most vulnerable population? Did he consider wearing a mask while he was with these veterans?
Well, this president is regularly tested. This president will make the decision as to whether to wear a mask or not. I can tell you that those veterans are protected. They made the choice to come here because they've chosen to put their nation first. They wanted to be with their commander-in-chief on this momentous day, and it was their choice to come here. And I can tell you that the president always puts the safety of our veterans first and of the American people first.
Well, how much exposure has he had to his valet? Can you give us a sense?
I can just tell you that we've taken every single precaution to protect the president. The same guidelines that our experts have put in place. We clean the facility. We social distance. We keep people 6 feet away from one another. So we've done every single thing that Dr. Birx and Dr. Fauci have asked us to do, and I can assure the American people that their commander-in-chief is protected.
This is both Trump and his new press secretary defending him for not wearing a mask as he came into contact with numerous World War II veterans at a ceremony commemorating the 75th anniversary of the Allied victory in Europe. The veterans ranged in age from 96 years old all the way to 100. And yet, rather than take every precaution possible to protect these heroes, of whom fewer and fewer are left, Trump opted to not even bother doing the bare minimum by wearing a mask. Now, aside from Trump complaining that reporters were only concerned with the 90 to 100-year-old World War II veterans and not himself, which frankly doesn't warrant a response, you gotta love the logic that there was no risk to the veterans because the wind was blowing too hard. Yup, can't think of any reason why strong winds would ever increase the risk of spreading a virus. And look, aside from the obvious issue of him putting these vulnerable heroes in danger, here's why that is so bad. Trump's valet just tested positive for coronavirus. 2 of Mike Pence's staff members also tested positive for coronavirus, including Pence's press secretary Katie Miller, who coincidentally is married to Stephen Miller, one of Trump's closest advisors, meaning that the entire West Wing of the White House may be compromised. The point is that we don't know what happens between Trump's daily tests, and so for him to come into contact with some of the last remaining World War II veterans, all of whom are close to, if not already 100 years old, and could likely die if infected, and not even take the most basic precautions to keep them safe, is so shockingly irresponsible that it's hard to put into words. I mean, these are the people who defeated the Germans in World War II, only to be put at risk by Donald Trump. Kayleigh McEnany even puts the onus on the veterans, claiming that they wanted to put their nation first and meet the president. But equating putting the nation first with meeting a guy who couldn't even be bothered to protect them is absurd. Those veterans risked their lives. They saved the world. They already put the nation first. Donald Trump dodged the draft on 5 separate occasions and then was too self-important to wear a mask amid a global pandemic. Those two things are not the same. Here's the thing, for Trump, wearing a mask represents, I guess, having surrendered to science, and that is antithetical to Trump's brand, because deferring to science and reality would undermine his entire strategy of pretending that everything is fine and that he solved all of it, when in reality, his administration has shown the worst governmental response to the outbreak on the face of the earth. And while the vast majority of nations are getting the virus under control, the majority of the United States is currently seeing cases spike when you take out the declining rates from New York. Think about that. Even when we are in the midst of failing outright relative to every country in the world, Trump wouldn't dare capitulate to science, even on the issue of wearing a mask, because his entire brand is predicated on pretending that scientists are in some deep state cahoots with Democrats to make him look bad. He will let Americans die in his desperation to let conspiracy theories like this one stay afloat. It also seemingly goes against his perverted idea of what strength is supposed to look like, and that is that he won't let the virus inconvenience him. He won't allow the virus to win by forcing him to alter his behavior, and so he'll just show the virus who's boss and will it into submission with sheer willpower and American exceptionalism, because that's how it works, right? So if Trump wants to put himself and his cohorts who've declared war on science at risk, more power to them. They can go lick handrails or whatever they need to do to prove to themselves that they're invincible. But when it comes to vulnerable Americans who are already at increased risk because of this administration's piss-poor handling of the crisis, not to mention World War II heroes, Trump should at least make a minimal effort to spare them from his partisan theatrics.